connection in our topic for tonight. So I'm so happy you all are tuning in. If you're watching the replay, feel free to let us know any questions or comments you have as we go along. I am so excited about tonight's topic on how to connect to your teen. This is something that all parents, even if you don't have teens, this still can be relevant for you in how we show up as parents and really how we show up and build connections with others. So I'm so excited to be joined by Liz Howerth tonight, who is a licensed mental health counselor, and she specializes in working with teens and adults. And I want to tell you a little bit about Liz, because I'm so happy she's part of the Pathways team. She is a former collegiate athlete. She has a heart for working with teens and athletes, and she really gets it, how to connect with them at a deeper level. And she knows trauma. So she is EMDR trained. We're all EMDR trained. And so that stands for eye movement desensitization reprocessing. It's a form of a treatment modality to treat PTSD, anxiety, and depression. All of our therapists are trained in that. And I'm Kristen Boice. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. So I work with individuals, couples, and families and how to build deeper connections and work through the past in order to be our authentic selves. So welcome. We're happy to have you. If you have any comments, I see some people joining us. So thank you for jumping on. And I would love to hear any questions you have. So there are no ridiculous questions because your question might be the question someone else has. So Liz, tell us a little bit more about you and some of the things that excite you about being a therapist.
Yes. Well, thanks for the intro. So I was thinking in preparing for this time, we were going to talk about teens, just all the avenues that I've gotten to work with them in. And so it was so fun to think about being a teacher before this, doing some FCA coaching and some camps, and then teaching internationally. So working with students from all over the world. And so it was just kind of cool to process through that a little bit. And then you mentioned the athlete line. So I love CrossFit. I love hanging out with friends, love being outside in the sun. And I just got a puppy. So that's been so fun. And truly, if you want to bring out emotions in your family, just get a puppy. That's what I've learned.
It's true. They're lovely and they're wonderful and they're very therapeutic. And
yes.
It's kind of like having a baby. I mean, they're
learning.
They have needs. Yeah, so you might be a little sleep deprived, I'm guessing.
Yes. Yes. But yeah, so love, just love connecting and interacting and engaging. So I'm really happy to be here and talk more about this topic. It's something that is close to my heart, just watching and working with teens going through this right now. Especially seniors. So I love counseling because I just love the idea of being a vessel to allow safe spaces for people to come as they are and just grow in their lives. So it's just a really cool way to experience that. And working with teens specifically, it's been really cool because they're at a stage of life where they need some mentorship, some outlets, and they're looking for that in order to help them grow in who they are. So it's been fun to be a part of that.
Yeah, it's such a critical time period. I mean, it really is. And figuring out who we are, what we like, what we don't like, our own thoughts, feelings, and opinions, and kind of that individuation, separation, kind of developmental stage.
Yes.
What are you noticing? Because this is like an unprecedented time. What are you noticing right now in teens? And I realize there's a spectrum here. So it doesn't mean all teens, because there's a variation on how people feel and how they show up, because we're all humans and we're all individuals. So this doesn't lump all teens into one category. So we want to make sure we're kind of defining that it's not all teens. What are you seeing in general right now for teens?
Yeah, good question. I think in general, what I'm seeing, honestly, is a lot of a shutdown and disengagement. So a lot of difficulty making a routine, trying to find their tracking, find their bearings. So maybe going to bed at 3 a.m. and getting up around noon, or feeling bored and not sure what to do, watching a lot of Netflix, zoning out. So a lot of times when I meet with them, it's kind of their time of connection of like, okay, kind of reprocessing, like what did I do this week? And every week has had a different flavor emotionally too. So I think we've kind of gone through the waves of that. And a lot of them, just meeting even this week, are talking about settling in a little bit more to like whatever this is right now, but not sure how to navigate some of the things coming up, like the losses they're going to have with not having, the end of their seasons or prom, all that kind of stuff. So it's been a hodgepodge of things, but a lot of trying to figure out how to actually do this, how to show up. And a lot of them are shutting down right now.
Yeah. And do you feel like, in particular for seniors, what are you noticing for them? Because we know it's like supposed to be the best part of the year is the end of the year. And this is the best part. Maybe they were having a good year this year. Maybe they were not having a good year this year. But what are you seeing with the seniors specifically?
Yeah. So something that I think is interesting that I've heard from a lot of them are like, well, everyone's experiencing this. Like we're all in the same boat. So they're kind of taking that collective community mentality, which a lot of teens do because their social world matters so much to them, right? So like, okay, we're all in this boat. So trying to normalize it, get into, and then so I've been doing a lot of trying to ask, yes, and what's your experience? So trying to really have them personalize it so that they're not just minimizing or in a way of like,
oh, I think we lost Liz. So we're going to keep on. I can hear you, but we can't see you. So you might want to jump off and jump back on. And in the meantime, what she's talking about is some of them will minimize maybe their experience and what they're going through. And then it might hit them at later stages. What we're noticing now is sometimes this may not be processed immediately. It may hit them at different times and later. So we know that, oh, here comes Liz. We're just talking about different times that they may experience the feelings. It may not be now, it may be later. So as you were saying.
Yes, I'm back. What was I saying?
You were basically saying in terms of like the emotions, some of them are kind of the seniors in particular.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm with you. Thank you. Okay. So yeah, a lot of them are, I think they're cool because they're trying to talk to their friends or, FaceTime or do what they're doing, Snap, all that. And so they're all just kind of saying, yeah, this stinks, we're in this together kind of a thing. And so, which is good to have that collective support, right? Like, hey, we're in this together. That's good. But then it's hard for them to pull out and be like, okay, and how is this impacting me? So I've heard things like, man, I've just been more stressed lately, or man, I just cannot get out of bed, like stuff like that. And so it's really trying to get them to talk through what their experience is, like what's underneath of that.
Yeah. So what might be some of the things? I know we have a post on Facebook that's like an iceberg, and it might be, and if you go on Instagram or Facebook, this is not to drive you to our social media, but this is to show you. And unfortunately, I'm not as tech savvy to show you the diagram, but it's like an iceberg. And on the surface, what are parents seeing?
Yeah, I thought this was so good. I'm so glad you posted this because it says, so we have excessive screen time, swearing, defiance, disrespect, ignoring, complaining, sneaking, refusing, fighting, leaving. And then one that I would add in there too is just being like, I'm bored. Like that, I 100% get at least 10 times every call. So like I am bored. I don't know what to do. Here I am, that kind of thing.
Okay. And then what's really underneath it? So behaviorally, this is what we're seeing, but underneath it emotionally, what's that saying? What's really going on the inside?
Yeah. So some on this iceberg, it really talks about like helplessness, disconnection, emotionally dysregulated. So, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I've been experiencing that even like every hour. You can feel multiple things or want to shove 10 cookies in your mouth, right? So I think the teens are feeling that dysregulation, fear, worry, confusion, powerlessness, misunderstanding. And this one I think is key, as you talked about earlier, Kristen, with just the identity formation in this stage. They talk about worrying about social status. So how do I measure up with how everyone else is doing? Or, I can't hang out with these people. So what do they think about me now? Or maybe no one likes me anymore. Like a lot of that kind of stuff.
Maybe no one cares. Like, I'm
Yeah.
over here, and does anyone really like me? Does anyone care about me? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, how do you help teens? How do you connect with teens and then help them kind of, process what's really going on and get connected to it?
Yeah. So I know that we use the book The Change Triangle. It's not always depression. And as we were thinking about how to talk through yes.
Here's the book. If you want to get it, we highly recommend it.
Yes.
It's by
Yes.
Hillary Jacobs Hendel.
So I actually, put together this handout and I can't show it to you exactly, which maybe we could do that somehow in another way, but I wanted to highlight a few of the pieces of it. So there are 3 different parts to this. And so I'm a process person, right? So it's not like, oh, here are 3 steps and now we're done. Like it's not black and white, but there's a process to this. And so with that connection with what's going on, we talk about core emotions. And so one thing that I really love, especially working with teens, and we'll talk a lot with parents about, is because teens will say things like, I don't want to move. Like it's all action, like body oriented, or like, man, like I just feel like really jittery, And so what this book talks about, something that's highlighted, are those core emotions are actually physical impulses in our body. And so, especially right now, as teens are cooped up and they have all this energy and all this desire to connect and get outside of themselves, all these emotions are still going on inside them. So I wrote those out. I don't know if you want me to say them
Yes.
or
Yeah, that'd
do
be
anything.
great.
Okay. So the core emotions, so fear. And so that impulse is to run, hide, or sometimes freeze. I think we could all relate to that a little bit.
All of us have that. These are all, everybody has these core emotions, by the way. It's universal, every human on the planet. Okay, go ahead.
Yes. Okay. Anger. So that impulse, right? When we know we're feeling that, is to fight, be aggressive, say mean things, intimidate, protect ourselves, and sometimes even catalyze change. So it's definitely like a movement oriented emotion, right? So I know I have some teens that are like, I'm just doing like 100 push-ups a day because they're just trying to get out some of that even anger they feel toward this situation. We've got sadness. So that impulse is to slow down, seek comfort and connection, and to curl up. That makes me think of like sitting down and watching TV and just like vegging,
Yeah.
Yeah. Joy's impulse, what we notice in our body, or when you see it on your teen, is to smile, grow big, and share that joy with other people. So a lot of connection happens with joy. I think we see that a lot actually on social media. People try to connect that way, right? Through like, oh, positive pictures and, oh, we're doing so great and those kind of things, which can be awesome. But we have all these other emotions too, right?
That we want to hide. We want to wear a mask and we want to pretend like we don't really feel that.
Yes.
We want to move away from it. We want to numb it. We don't really want to show people those emotions. But I'll show the people, and sometimes it's not safe to show joy either, depending on the system you're in. But in particular, yeah, teens are more apt to connect and joy.
Yeah. Yeah. No, definitely. And then excitement. So that impulse is like propelling us toward like making us want to like jump up, high five a friend, like, oh, we just won a game, or we just did really well at our concert, or oh, good job on that. So we really want to connect and like engage. And then disgust. So that impulse is to move away from that thing that disgusts us. Like if you're ever like, oh, like maybe at this point you're disgusted with homework or, something like that. We're just like, I'm done. Like I can't do any more of that. Those are kind of the impulses. And so anyway, just circling back, why I like to start there with connection with teens is because you might notice their behavior or their action before they're able to even verbalize that it's a feeling.
Yes, I think that is so important because parents focus on behavior. They go, well, you were disrespectful, or your attitude, or this or that. And what's underneath it, when we're in stress, we kind of regress.
Yes.
So, and that's true for all humans if we don't use our breathing through our nose, out our mouths. If we don't self-regulate, we can go regress. So that's why you might see some regressive behaviors for teens or kids because they're stressed. or they haven't been able to move, like you said, these feelings, these emotions, and to release them. So I think that's a really good point, that if we focus on the behavior, we're not going to get to what really lies underneath.
Yeah. No, I like that too, because it reminds me of when we were talking a bit earlier about the idea to need, like, and I get it, like parents want to fix things, they want to make it better. But I feel like that ties in a little bit as just that idea of like, okay, we can always fix everything, one for our kid, right? But also that's that need to control. I don't know. Do you want to talk more about
Absolutely.
that?
Yeah. I think there's a pattern I see in myself and with other parents where we go, they're upset and they're crying and they didn't get invited to whatever, or, on social media, so-and-so posted, now it's in our face. Like growing up, we didn't have it in our face. We didn't have, like, you didn't get invited to the slumber party and now it's posted on Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, all the things. And so what happens is there's story writing that goes on, right? I'm not worthy, they don't like me. And parents, then their inner child gets triggered and does not like that feeling. And so now we want to make it all better. We want to positive our way through. Well, they weren't a good friend anyways. And well, you didn't really, she hurt you the other week and maybe that's not a good friend. And maybe that is true, but we are trying to fix it rather than process it. And so that's the step I see. We jump to go, well, maybe you should text so-and-so. She loves you. She includes you. Maybe you should, reach out to Susie. She's nice. And that's fixing it. Instead of going, how are you feeling? Well, and they might get angry. I hate so-and-so. Okay. That's to cover up the pain they feel. That's to cover up the feelings of rejection they feel and sadness. And when I go, it's okay to have your feelings, let it out. I'm not trying to fix it. I'm not getting them to shove it back down. I'm getting them to release it, or allowing, not getting. That's not the correct term I want to use, but I'm creating the space for them to process through it without me trying to fix, rescue, or save them from the feeling. Because we have to teach them and equip them how to deal with the feelings throughout the rest of their lives. And so they can go, okay, take a deep breath. Okay, that hurt. It's okay for me to have my feelings. Okay, honey. Like they can learn to self-soothe. They can learn to acknowledge their feelings and process them and get to the other side. Instead of us trying to put it in a bow and make them feel better by, you're a wonderful person. You're awesome. They don't need you. Okay. That's not doing a thing for them because they don't believe it first. And second, they didn't get to process anything. And guess what they're going to do? Shut down, move away. And now they're just like, okay, well, I guess it's now they're not going to open up to you because they're now feeling like that. I should just be okay now. I'm going to minimize my feelings.
Yeah. And I think like what you just said, like I know we were talking about like the process of connection with the teens, and then what you just highlighted is what I have on the process. So it's exactly that, is name the emotion, let them name the emotion, like help them if they don't know. Some of them just don't know, like they don't know how to get there. I feel like honestly, so much of counseling with teens is doing exactly what you said. It's giving them the space without fixing it, without rescuing them, without jumping in there, and just letting them kind of get there. As you guide them and walk with them on some of this stuff. And this is stuff you can definitely do at home with them, right? So it's name the emotion, feel the emotion. Like it is okay to feel. I don't know. It took me a long time to get there personally. Like it's okay to feel it. I think teens especially sometimes just need permission, or a lot of space in order to. That's my opinion. I don't know if you have thoughts on that, Kristen.
I agree wholeheartely. I think it took us years to undo the programming of, oh, we lost her.
I'll be back.
Okay. Yep. It's like, I'll be back. It took us years to even know what we feel. A lot of times when I ask clients, what are you feeling? They're like, oh, I don't even know. I know anger. But sometimes they're not even allowed to feel that. So helping children know and teens know that it's okay for them to have their feelings. And I use that term. I actually say, it's okay. Here she comes. She's coming back on. Yay. Here she is. It might be the Wi-Fi connection.
Yeah,
but sorry. No big deal. And I tell my kids and I tell myself all the time. I give myself permission slips and I give my kids permission slips because I say to myself, it's okay for me to have my feelings. Now, it's what I do with my feelings. Am I projecting them? Am I taking it out on somebody? That's on me. I can go, it's okay for me to have my feelings. It's okay for me to be sad. It's okay for me to feel angry. It's okay. And I say to my kids, it's okay to have your feelings. And guess what they continue to do? And then she did. And then she sent me this text. It's okay. Let it out. Let it out. It's okay. And if they keep going, beautiful. Beautiful. That's great. Now, a lot of teens aren't going to do that because one, we haven't set the groundwork for this. Two, if we haven't done it when they were younger, it feels very uncomfortable. Now that's awkward and weird. And so it's not just a magic bullet that you go, feel your feelings. It's okay. And all of a sudden they're going to go, oh, let me share everything with you. They're not going to share everything. And that's not healthy either. So saying it's okay to have your feelings is a key message I say repeatedly to myself and to my kids.
Definitely. As you were talking, I was just thinking too, how important it is to honor that, like, especially for teens, like you're saying, they might not sit there and tell everything, but even if they give something, like the best they have might be like, yeah, maybe. I mean, maybe that's the best they have. Like, if you're like, oh, how are you feeling? Are you feeling upset? They might be like, maybe. And just be like, thanks for telling me that. Like, really invite them into that space and like honor that. So I think sometimes teens, as much as they seem like little adults, like, they really are trying to figure it out and need to be seen just as much as the rest of us. So really offering that space for them to be seen is, I think, really powerful, maybe even more than they will ever tell you, kind of a thing.
I really like what you just said. Accept the answer and go, thank you for sharing that. Thank you for telling me. I love that because there's no judgment in that. And the minute they think we're going to preach and teach to them is the minute they're going to shut down. The minute I get my preacher teacher and I told you last week that you shouldn't have done that. And I can feel myself going into the preacher, like, I'm going to teach you a lesson here. Boom. You can immediately watch them shut down right in front of you. So as parents, we have to check that preach and teach, like that within us, that we want to teach a lesson. And that moment is at the time. When they're in pain and when they're hurting and when they're scared and sad, those are not the moments to be like, well, I told you last week to not, those aren't the moments. The moment is the invitation to just hold the space so they can share what they can share. And like you said, maybe it's just a maybe. And that's it for now. But your response is critical.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because right? Tell me more about responses, like how people respond in order to create connection.
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. And my brain's I was like, she's going to ask me this. So I'm thinking, I feel like it's tricky because I know Brene Brown does a lot of work with empathy, right? And I really feel like, it's a skill. And when life is busy and there's a lot happening and we're in a pandemic, it is hard to have empathy for ourselves, let alone other people. So I think it would be a challenge and maybe an encouragement to all of us, but specifically talking about teens and parents, for parents to kind of grow in that empathic skill, right? Like, strengthen it no matter where that's at and give yourself grace along the way. Because and maybe Kristen can speak more to that, but like that idea that like maybe we didn't get that, so we don't know how to do that too. But I think that I would say, one, you have to start with knowing what empathy is and how to hold that space. Like you're saying, the right timing for it. There certainly probably is a time to be like, okay, so here's what we do, follow back, circle up or circle back or whatever. But I just think when you're talking about that, the thing that comes to my mind is more of what is empathy and how to offer that. So it can be, holding space and just being like asking questions, like open-ended questions. That's like how are you doing? Like, or what, or maybe, asking them maybe specifically or showing them something you've noticed and like, just kind of maybe wanting to join in with what they're doing. Like, hey, can I play something with you? What do you want to do? I would love to do something with you today. Or, I don't know what the relationship is, but those are things that come to mind. engaging a little bit more, like side by side stuff to
Like
see.
playing a video game that they're on, and you're like, let me play Minecraft. Even
Yes.
if you really don't want to do it. Is that what
Yeah.
you're saying? Like doing things to get into their world so then you can speak the language, so to speak, and build connection.
Yes. Yes. And I wonder, as we're talking, I wonder if something that blocks that is like fear from the parent. Like fear of like maybe not the teen not wanting to connect with them. I don't know. I'm just curious.
Yeah, I definitely think that can be a driving force because if we're afraid they're going to shut us down, say something unkind, get sassy, right? And they're like,
Yeah.
fine, forget it. And then it's just like, then I'm going to pull the plug on that parents can pull the plug on the connection. And that's when we have to take a deep breath, nurture our own fear, identify we're in fear, and then figure out how do I speak my kid's language? Because if
Mm-hmm.
your kid loves animals, guess what? I'm going to speak in animal language because I have one daughter that she loves animals. So I can speak in animal language and use animal analogies. And sometimes, like for example, I'll give you an example, and this may sound like hokey pokey, but I'll pretend like I'm the dog and I'll speak for the dog and I'll be like, "Oh, how are you feeling today?" And yep, I've done nothing but lay around and I'm hungry. You got a bone? And she thinks it's hilarious. And so now we're connecting, and now there's some safety starting to be built in to then when she does come to me, I've got to manage my responses. I've got to be responding rather than reacting. Reacting is getting dysregulated. Responding is saying, like you said, thank you so much for sharing. So it's figuring out who your kid is. Who is your child? What do they like? It's not about what I like. It's about what you like. If they like to cook, speak into that. If they like video games, speak into that. If they like robotics, and you might not like, if they like singing, you might not like those things, but they might like those things. And I feel like that's really important to understanding your child and then how to connect through those activities, those interests that can be really
Absolutely.
helpful. And then when they're ready to emotionally connect with you, you're going to hold that safe space to acknowledge those feelings.
It's good, Kristen. As you were talking, I was just thinking of, like you said, the connection first, then comes hopefully some of the emotions, right? To move through those, to then get to, then we can problem solve. But so many times we want to do problem solve first. So I think that that's a key part, even in this outline of like, okay, so allowing the kid to deal with the emotions, the kid to deal with that then. And I think that's where, like, I have noticed teens are like, I don't know what to do. Like, so a lot of them are like, what do I do with this? And so the coping stuff, whether maybe they're introverted and they don't want to talk about it a lot, maybe they want to journal, or maybe they need to just draw or walk outside, or, just giving them outlets that are other ways to deal with it rather than sitting down, looking you in the eye and telling every single thing that's going on for them. Because that's probably not realistic in most cases, right? So like having space for them to even just helping support them have that space. Like if you notice they're bummed because they miss their friends, like, can they sit outside on the swing and like talk to the friend on FaceTime that way? Just something a little more connecting and engaging that you're like supporting, as opposed to them just doing it on their own like they always do or something, like that kind of feel.
Yeah. And let's say somebody says, but my kid won't talk to me, because I hear this a lot. But my kid, I try to talk to them and they don't want to talk to me. So what do you say to that?
Yeah, I would say a couple things. One, that I get that that's hard from even the standpoint, teens will come into my office and
Oh,
oh,
we
I
lost
lost
her
you.
again.
I'm coming.
Okay. So a couple of things I say to that while she jumps back on is when you don't have a teen that wants to talk, the first thing is you need to check how your energy is. So I have to be responsible for the energy I'm bringing into the space. I think she's coming back on in a minute. I think it's the Wi-Fi.
Sorry. Okay.
So I was just saying, filling in the space here, that the parent has to be responsible for their energy first because the teen's not going to want to connect if I'm going, then what did he say? Then what did she say? And then what are you going to do? Okay, that's like an anxious energy, and they're going to shut down. So I have to check my energy. Am I coming from a calm place? Am I coming from an unmet need place that I'm wanting them to fill? What is the energy I'm bringing to the table? Okay, now what were you going to say?
No, that's so good. I'm glad, because two things, and this feeds into the first thing I was going to say. So first of all, can I share this book
Please.
real quick? Okay. So Brainstorm, and I'm going to try, there we go. Okay. This is a really, really good book for working with, it's 12 to 24. So Dan Siegel does a lot of brain research, right? Like all this kind of stuff with kids through teens. There's another one he has called The Whole Brain Child. That's young, young kids up to 12 years old. Highly recommend these resources because it helps you understand what's going on inside of them, which is kind of what we're talking about. If they're closed off and you're like, oh, they don't want to connect with me, like, how do you know what to do? Like, that's a valid question. And honestly, I don't know all those answers, right? Like, we don't know all those answers, but it's much less about the answer and more about like the why, like the process. And so I think one thing that it talks about in here and that I love is just that idea that, teens specifically are trying to like, they are so enamored in their social environment because they're getting ready to go survive on their own and figure things out and go off. And so kind of noticing that it's probably normal for them to pull back and shut down a bit, honestly, right now, because they're not able to do what they want to do. But allowing that space for it to be consistent and keep showing up in it. That's what I would say. Because a lot of what I've noticed is power struggles. So we've got some kids and some teens who, they're used to doing their own thing. Maybe they were in a lot of sports or they were in different activities after school, and now they're home all the time. And so they lost some of that independence. And so I would say there's a couple parts to that of like not allowing that anxious energy to come in and want to like micromanage what they're doing because they're not used to it. And then another avenue might be to, looking at kind of taking a step back too and looking at some like family values. Like, what are we valuing here and how we're connecting or how we're relating? Like, what is actually driving this? Do I feel like I need to be right all the time? Or do I feel like, man, we just need to like come back together and like get to know each other again? That kind of feel.
Yeah. And so when you think of, let's take seniors, because I feel like that's a group that is not getting to experience those lasts and the things they look forward to, prom, right? Graduation parties, graduation, these lasts of sporting events. They've worked so hard for just even year-end grades. They've worked hard in band. They've worked hard in show choir. They've worked hard in just their different endeavors, speech team, whatever they've been working on, and they don't get to experience the lasts. So how would a parent kind of, what do you think what are you thinking the teens need, the seniors specifically? What are you picking up on that would be helpful for them?
Yeah. So a couple of things came to mind. And again, like you said, there's a continuum, but a couple of things come to mind. One is that idea that they have a unique experience. So, I mean, there are a lot of creative ways to like, honor those parts of them, I think, right? But rather than maybe jumping ahead and deciding this is what we're going to do to fix that, or, we don't have graduation, so we're going to do it in July and it's going to look like this, like allowing the team to actually like take a minute and acknowledge what they want and what they need in it. And asking them and checking in on them a little bit on their personal experience with it. That's something that I've just kind of even noticed, parents want to be like, okay, but we'll go on vacation then, like we'll make up for it. And that's good. But also right now, allowing them that time to grieve and to just acknowledge it. And maybe they'll grieve it later, but at least they've got that foundational space of acknowledging their experience now.
Yeah, I like how you said that, because acknowledgement, if I could put that on a billboard, put it on a bumper sticker, I would. I'd put a big old acknowledgement, because what do we want? What do we all want? If someone starts giving you advice when all you need to do is just let it out, and they're like, well, did you do this? Did you do that? I want to go, okay, thank you. Their intentions are pure. They really want to help. And all I really want is acknowledgement. Go, oh yeah, I get that. That's hard. So that's where we have to check. We're doing what we wouldn't want done to us, to our kids.
Right.
Sometimes. I like how you said checking in with them. What do they want? And they might not know right now, and that's okay. We don't have to have the answers right away. How are you feeling? And they might not know. And you go, that's okay. If they go, I don't know, that's okay. Thank you for sharing that. Because we get triggered with I don't knows.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes an I don't know can be a defense, right? To getting it wrong or having the wrong answer. So then they don't have to have blame, shame, and judgment. So if I just say, I don't know, it's like, well, then you won't get mad at me. And so that's a different thing.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we just don't know. And when I go, if you do want to talk about it, I just want you to know I'm available. And you just leave the door open. You leave the door open. And when they're ready, they might walk through it and they might not. And you've shown up present in it. I see a lot of projection. So I think you gave a good example of, well, then they'll go, well, we're not going on vacation now, but we'll go on it in, we're going to do it in August. Before you go off to college, we're going to do it in August. And that may be great.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know, right? We don't know. What we can say is, what is that like that we're not going on vacation? Tell me about that. What's that like for you? I know I'm sad. What are you feeling? That's a different conversation.
Yeah, even you saying that, I'm like, and that settles. Now we're here. Now we're not, running forward. Like that's a present-ended question where it allows you to kind of show up right then. Yeah, that's good.
The one thing I noticed this week, which has been very interesting, and you just kind of highlighted it, and just your body response went, is when I think of the future, there's anxiety in that because there's uncertainty there. When I bring it back to the present, and I take my breath and I bring it back here, then I can process the here and now. And that's that's the calling for all parenting. Whether it's you're parenting a teen or a little one, bring it back to the present, because that's where we know if the kids can process in real time what they feel, how they feel it in their body. We know they're less likely to repress, which can live in the body and can develop in aches and pains and trauma later. I'm not saying all trauma, but I'm saying if we can help create space for them to process without reactivity, that's the goal. Now, that requires the parent to do their own work. That requires the parent, believe me, requires me to do my breathing. It requires me to do my inner child work. It requires me to be centered. And we all want to feel like we have a plan for the future. We do, because that settles our brain. So if we look at the brain, we can operate, like you said, out of fight, flight, or freeze. And we think if I go ahead and plan without processing, I'll feel better, but your kid might not. Your kid might not feel better because they didn't get to process how they felt. You might feel better because you got a new date. So we don't want to skip the processing step. I can't emphasize that enough. And we don't want to skip the acknowledgement step. And there's that like step 1, 2, 3. I mean, it's more like those are the pieces of the recipe: is self-regulation, processing, and acknowledgement, which is that empathy piece. Yes. Is there more you want to add about that?
No, I think that nailed it right there. I think the three ingredients. I like how you said that. Yeah, that's it.
And if you repeat, I go through those, repeat. It's not like 1, 2, 3, done. I'm like, breathe. Center. How are you feeling? I don't know. Breathe. Center.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I'm wondering if you might feel a little sad. No, I'm mad. Okay. I can see that you're mad. Yeah. I hate this. I'm bored. Yeah, I could get that. It can't, I mean, yeah, we've been in quarantine 40 days. That makes sense that you feel that way. Yeah. So I'm wondering if there's more going on. Like you're sad, you miss your friends, you miss your teachers. No, I'm just making this up, right? But
yeah.
And then I go, I'm acknowledging, oh, we lost her. She'll come back.
Yep.
We got this down. She'll be back. So that what we're doing is it's not a linear process. It's a continuous process. And so that's the processing, the acknowledging, and the self-regulation. Here she comes back. Is something I rinse and repeat on a regular basis. And if you're not a parent, you're going to rinse and repeat this in your relationships in order to create connection. So connection comes from self-regulation, connection comes from processing, and connection comes from acknowledgement. It doesn't coming from fix, rescue, save, let me tell you what to do. So this is a formula. I hate using the word formula. This is the recipe in order to create connection with teens and anybody in your life. Is there any other nuggets you want to part ways with today to share that we missed?
I think this covered a lot of topics, honestly, that I wasn't sure we went back and forth through a lot of it. I think I would just share an encouragement, because I think as I just know in my own life, or then meeting with people on the daily, like, this is hard. It's really, really hard. And that any words that have been spoken in this aren't meant to be like, why are you doing this wrong? If you hear a shaming voice, to kind of like get reflective on that, because this is really meant to be helpful, right? And like open up pathways, no pun intended, but pathways to, that just came in.
Oh, good.
Thank you. For and even in that, I know, counseling maybe your teens, or, teens in general, like, I see them for 50 minutes. So I can give concentrated effort to this, which is kind of the perk of having counseling. Truly, it's an outside support. Like I mentioned earlier with the puppy, if I don't have help with that puppy, we're gonna have problems. So I think that, like, the same idea, even in this avenue, just encouragement that this is meant to be supportive, and hopefully, these resources and books can also be helpful. I know you don't have a lot of time, but just even opening up maybe new ways of thinking about things and growing ourselves during this time.
Absolutely. And there's research that says 5 mentors, coaches, teachers that pour into one teen makes a huge, it's the number's 5. So 5 people that care, and you don't have to have 5. This is just the research number. But that pour into your teen, and a counselor is certainly one. Teachers are another. Coaches are another. Youth pastors. I mean, we have ministers. We have a plethora of people, and I think that's one of your strengths. That is what connects you with teens, because you're not coming to, like you said, to fix it. You're coming to be present. How can you tell a little bit about the online support group that might be beneficial to teens as they're kind of in quarantine, and the seniors that are grieving over the last? And can you tell us a little bit about the online teen support groups?
Yeah. So I think the vision of those groups is really just to, what we're talking about here, provide space for some of those nutrients of the recipes to come out, right? So a safe space for process, and then for acknowledgement. So for each team to come, we kind of have a few different curriculums we'll be using. One would be through Brene Brown Avenue, and then some grief work, just to help them identify, what is actually happening in their experience, to get present with it. And I think the hope is that they can just come as they are, and, like, get to know each other a little bit, and then be able to just be present and move through wherever they're at. So they don't have to, look at social media or talk to their friends from a team or from, like, school, and pretend, or be like, oh yeah, they're good, I'm good too. Like, they can just be like, this is where I'm at. I'm feeling great today. Or, you know what, this week was really rough. And they each have that space for that, in the presence of being seen by their peers. So it's kind of a guided space where I would be a coach in that way, and kind of facilitate that. I love working with teams. I love working with groups of people. I love seeing the unique parts of people, and then kind of allowing space for those to connect, and for people to engage, just in growth-oriented ways. So I think that the idea of the group would just be that they could come and do those things.
And so what groups are you offering? So Pathways is offering, led by Liz, 2 different groups. Can you talk about the 2 different groups?
Yeah. So one is for student athletes in particular, just acknowledging the idea of, with the sports seasons ending, and just not even having that closure with their teams. I'm thinking of seniors specifically, honestly, just, ending their career and that part of their identity. Maybe a majority of teens who play sports don't go off to college and do them. So that was it, and just kind of having that space to come up with people who understand that part of them, not just, the other parts, but even the athlete part of them. So that's one. And then the other group is for all all teens. Again, just like anyone who, is looking to maybe maybe they're not feeling as connected, or maybe they are feeling connected, but they want to like actually talk about how they're doing with other people. Maybe they're feeling bored, and so they have extra time, and it might be a better way than one-on-one counseling because, it's a little more cost effective. And also, if you're social and like to, interact with other people, this would be a good time for that. So,
do you have good results with the groups you've led? I know you've led a lot of groups in teens. Do you see positive results with doing groups?
I do. Yeah. I mean, I do. I think it's different groups have different flavors. And I think one of the coolest parts about it is just watching the groups. It's process, right? It's what we're talking about, being present, being seen, being acknowledged. And sometimes there's pushback on that, like, oh, but what objectives did we meet? And I think there are some of those that happen, but a lot of it, they're walking away with self-awareness, which I think is gold. Like my life, that's been gold. So like self-awareness and the ability to know they can get through something, like they've done the work. And it hasn't really felt like work. I think that's why I like watching groups happen, because they're like, oh yeah, I did just do that, So
yeah, so they get self-aware and they get coping skills. So that's lifelong in the process. They get to process what they're going through. How do people sign up if they're interested?
Yeah, so you can email me. I think that's how we're doing it, right, Kristen?
Yep.
Is that what it is? Okay. So you can email me at liz@pathwaystohealingcounseling.com. And you can just shoot me an email and let me know you're interested. Or if you have any questions about it at all, I'd be happy to answer any of those. So,
and you can also go on our website, fill out the form, and I can get it to Liz. So if that's easier to go to the Pathways to Healing Counseling website, we can do that too. So thank you so much, Liz, for your time and your heart. I know you absolutely love working with teens and they love working with you. So I'm grateful for the work that you do and the help that you're offering to, I think, all kids. And you work with kids you work with kids too, not just teens. So I think that gives you a wealth of ability to look at the human development cycle and where someone might be developmentally and emotionally. So thank you for your heart. Thank you for your time. If anybody has any more questions, feel free to drop it in the comments. This will be on replay on the Pathways to Healing Counseling website. So if you want to see a replay or you want to send this to a friend or your husband or wife or a neighbor or grandparent, you can do that. You can send the link from the website or hit the share button. And feel free to share it. If you got a nugget or two, feel free to drop that in the comments. We love to hear any feedback and we welcome it. If you want more of these, if you want more on parenting, teens, kids, let us know. We're trying to figure out kind of what will resonate with folks, what they want. So let us know. We're open. We are here to serve. And we want you to know that we see you, you matter, you're important, and you're loved, and you're enough. And that's what I say to my kids every day. And that's what I want you to believe as a parent too. And oftentimes we don't. We feel a lot of shame. We feel like we're failing our kids. We feel like we're falling short. And that's why I love doing this work. That's why I love personal work, because we can change generations. We can absolutely change systems and generational legacies. So don't quit. Don't give up. You're worth it. And thank you so much for tuning in tonight. And find out more, stay on the web page, or not the web page, the Facebook page, and on Instagram, and we'll post when we're doing more Facebook Lives. Thank you and have a wonderful night.
Thank you.
Thank you.